For nearly a decade, Hulk Hogan was untouchable. He was the face of professional wrestling, the man who built WWE into a global empire and a larger-than-life superhero to millions. But in 1993, something changed. Hogan vanished from WWE. No retirement speech, no farewell match, no proper send-off, just gone. Was it his decision, or was he forced out? The truth behind Hulk Hogan's 1993 exit is darker than you think, and it's a story WWE doesn't want you to know.
Professional wrestling is my life!
Hulkamania at its peak. To understand why Hogan left, we have to go back to when he ruled the world of wrestling. Throughout the 1980s, Hulk Hogan was bigger than the sport itself. From slamming Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 to selling out arenas night after night, he was a box office sensation. He headlined every major WWE event, had action figures, his own cartoon show, and even starred in Hollywood movies. He wasn't just WWE's biggest star, he was WWE. But by the early 90s, things were starting to change. The larger-than-life, muscle-bound superstars of the 80s were slowly being phased out, and behind the scenes, a storm was brewing, one that would shake WWE to its core. The steroid scandal that changed everything. In the late 80s and early 90s, rumors of steroid use in wrestling weren't just speculation, they were an open secret. WWE's top stars were larger than life, but many fans and media outlets began questioning how they got that way. Then, in 1991, the federal government got involved. It all started with Dr. George Zahorian, a Pennsylvania physician who had been illegally supplying steroids to wrestlers. When Zahorian was arrested in 1991 for distributing steroids to WWE stars, it caught the attention of federal authorities. The case quickly escalated into a full-blown investigation into steroid use within the world of professional wrestling. As the investigation deepened, Vince McMahon was directly implicated. The feds believed that McMahon had knowingly allowed steroids to flow freely through his organization, and in 1993, he was officially indicted on charges of conspiracy to distribute steroids. WWE, already a billion-dollar global empire, was suddenly under the microscope of the entire nation. The testimony that exposed Hulk Hogan. As the steroid trial heated up, Hulk Hogan's name was quickly drawn into the investigation. While Vince McMahon was at the center of the prosecution's case, Hogan, as WWE's biggest star, was subpoenaed to testify about his personal steroid use and the culture at WWE. What Hogan said in that courtroom would change the trajectory of his career and the future of WWE. In 1994, Hogan walked into the courtroom under immense pressure. He had been a hero to millions, a symbol of strength and positivity, but as soon as he was sworn in, the public would see him in a completely different light. The key moment came when Hogan was asked about his steroid use. "Have you ever used steroids?" the prosecution asked. Hogan, now visibly uncomfortable, hesitated. After a moment, he admitted that he had used steroids and had done so on and off for years, starting back in the late 1970s. He revealed that steroid use was widespread in the wrestling industry, and while Vince McMahon never personally supplied him with drugs, many wrestlers had access to them through a network of doctors and trainers. "I used them because I was told to take them," Hogan said, pointing to the pressures of maintaining his superhero physique to keep his spot at the top of WWE's hierarchy. The admission was shocking, especially to fans who had seen Hogan as the clean-cut all-American hero who promoted healthy living. But Hogan didn't stop there. He explained how steroid use had become normalized in the industry and how many of WWE's top stars had used them in order to stay competitive. By the time Hogan finished his testimony, it was clear Hulk Hogan, the wrestling icon, was just as much a part of the steroid culture as the men he worked with. The real reason Hogan left WWE. With his reputation hanging in the balance, Hogan faced a crossroads in 1993. WWE was undergoing a massive transformation. The company's image was being shattered by the steroid scandal, and the fans were beginning to turn on Hogan himself. Hogan had ruled WWE for nearly a decade, but by 1993, the landscape was shifting. Fans were starting to turn on him. His act was growing stale, and younger, more athletic stars like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were gaining popularity. Fans were starting to tire of the predictable cookie-cutter storylines. The WWE needed a fresh direction, and Hogan, despite his enormous star power, was no longer the face of that new vision. There were whispers backstage that Hogan's political maneuvering was causing friction. As WWE's biggest star, he had grown accustomed to controlling his storylines and outcomes. He often made decisions about who he would work with and how long he would hold titles. And this level of control didn't sit well with the rising stars who wanted their moment in the spotlight. Take WrestleMania 9 for instance. Hogan inserted himself into the main event after Bret Hart was supposed to retain the WWE Championship. Instead, Hogan took the spotlight, defeated Yokozuna in mere minutes, and stole the title away from Bret. This move sent shockwaves through the locker room, with many wrestlers feeling that Hogan was undermining the very talent that could lead WWE into the future. Hogan's departure was looming, and by the time he lost the title back to Yokozuna at King of the Ring 1993, it was clear WWE was ready to move on. Vince McMahon, once a man who had leaned heavily on Hogan's star power, had already begun phasing him out. It was no longer a question of if Hogan would leave, but when. The aftermath. When Hogan left WWE in 1993, it sent shockwaves through the industry. The company was at a crossroads, struggling financially, dealing with the fallout from the steroid trial, and facing a massive shift in public perception. Without Hogan at the helm, WWE entered what was known as the New Generation era, focusing on smaller, more athletic wrestlers. But the absence of a transcendent star like Hogan left a noticeable gap. The company began to suffer as its audience shifted. Vince McMahon needed a solution. Meanwhile, Hogan quietly disappeared from the wrestling world for a few years. He shifted focus to acting and became involved in various entertainment projects, including the failed Thunder in Paradise TV show. But wrestling wasn't done with Hogan just yet. By 1994, WCW, WWE's biggest competitor, came calling. Hogan's arrival in WCW was a game changer. Hogan initially played the same babyface character, but fans quickly grew tired of him, just like they had in WWE. Then, in 1996, Hogan made the biggest move of his career. He turned heel and formed the New World Order. The villainous Hollywood Hogan persona was a total reinvention and helped WCW dominate WWE for nearly 2 years. Hulk Hogan's 1993 exit from WWE marked the end of an era, whether you believe he left willingly or was pushed out due to the changing landscape of the company and his tarnished reputation. The truth is that Hogan's departure had far-reaching consequences, not just for him, but for the wrestling business as a whole. From the steroid scandal to backstage politics, Hulk Hogan's exit was the turning point for WWE. But in many ways, it also opened the door for the rise of a new generation of stars who would carry the company into the Attitude Era, with names like Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock. What do you think? Was Hogan's departure inevitable? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden stories of wrestling history.